Welcome to Greenhouse Grower to Grower, the podcast where we talk to growers from across the greenhouse industry about market trends, innovation, their biggest challenges and opportunities, and more. I'm Brian Sparks, editor of Greenhouse Grower. Florida-based Costa Farms, the top grower on Greenhouse Grower's Top 100 Growers list, kicked off the new year in a big way with the acquisition of Battlefield Farms. In this episode of Greenhouse Grower to Grower, I caught up with Joche Smith, CEO of Costa Farms. We talked about why now is the best time to make a move like this, what else Costa Farms has planned for 2024 and beyond, and more. Here's our conversation. I want to jump in by thanking you for taking the time today. Before we get to, what the news on Costa's acquisition of Battlefield, what it means for you guys and for the industry, could just kind of talk about, as you're getting into 2024, where Costa is now, what are some of the big things that you guys have going on? And, as a company, how are you looking to position Costa going into this new year?
Yeah, so look, one of the things that's just been a big topic of ours the last couple of years is struggling to grow the business, right? I mean, there was, from 2010 to 2020, about 50% of our growth was organic and the other half came from acquisition. And then, when 2020 and the onset of COVID, after those first couple months of panic, on the grower side, I realized how much growth was going to happen. And so, we all benefited from a whole bunch of organic growth in 2020 and in 2021.
Yeah.
And acquisitions were kind of on the back burner at that point in time. And 2022 was a pretty difficult year for us. And the first year the company had ever lost money. And so we weren't in a position to acquire anybody. And, the organic growth had definitely slowed down considerably in 2022 and then in 2023. So, we've always made a commitment to our entire team that the leadership is going to provide opportunities for growth. I mean, and whether it's going to be organic or it's going to be through acquisition, but that we are a growth company. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of the focus over the last, 12 to 18 months for the first half, honestly, of 2023 was getting out of the hole that we were in 2022. And the 2022 was very difficult to the point where we had to redo bank deals and so forth. And we spent several months, making our bankers happy again, getting things right. And, by about the early fall, I guess, of 2023, we were kind of back in the mode of, looking for the right opportunities to grow the business.
Sure.
And we have visited with a few growers, in different parts of the country. But we've had a relationship, and I say a relationship, just a, friendly relationship, a little bit of business relationship with the folks from Battlefield for a long time. And, it's something that we kind of kicked around, I guess, and never really got too serious about it, until just a few months ago.
Okay.
And both of the companies got serious about it and decided it's something that we both wanted to do. And then that, kind of quick, I'm actually shocked that we were able to get the deal done and get it done over the holidays. I thought that this would roll to this, at the beginning of the year and even in the spring a little bit. And I was a little concerned about that, but both companies were just, dead set on getting it done and getting it done in a way that it would not interfere with our customers and suppliers and with spring, certainly with spring. So, yeah, so we are.
So, that's a good point that, the deal moved very quickly. So as you get into this spring, how do you see that kind of having an immediate impact on spring for both companies?
So look, for spring, I don't really foresee anything changing, right? I mean, all the plans have been set now for several months. The one thing that is different that had to happen, and it did happen last week. The day after we closed, all of the Battlefield team members became part of the Costa team. We had to do that for kind of payroll purposes and so forth. But everything else, the purchasing, the production plan, and so forth. It'll be a while before those things get integrated, and there's a lot of collaboration. I don't anticipate, perhaps this year for poinsettia season, that there may be a little bit of collaboration and help. For example, we have a facility in Asheville, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. We can't produce all of the poinsettias we want in Asheville. We end up doing some of them in South Carolina, some of them in Florida. And so, there's a possibility that we end up doing some of the poinsettias, in Rapidan at Battlefield this year. But we haven't even got into those discussions yet. I mean, right now for 24, we're basically kind of running everything as is. 2025 will really be the year when, we start to do, see what synergies we can incorporate among the different, parts of the business.
Right. When it comes to Battlefield, I mean, what are the specific attributes of that company that really stood out and made the most sense for this kind of a move?
Look, in our case, we're very like-minded, owners. There's very like-minded ownership. I mean, it's a hardworking family that's humble, that, really, really likes taking care of their people, absolutely committed, to developing a great team. We really just got along really, really well. I mean, I felt like I could be talking to any of the guys on the senior Costa team when I'm talking to Bobby or his brother Anthony, the two brothers, and their father Jerry, who run the business. But they're great folks. I mean, they're great folks, and they're always willing. I mean, some of the folks, well, I mean, not point out any negatives about anybody, but they're always willing to look at a better way of doing things.
Sure.
And I appreciate that. And that's why I'm sure there's going to be a lot of transfer of knowledge going in both directions, from the Costa to the Battlefield team and from the Battlefield team to the Costa team.
I would imagine that. I mean, you've got a couple companies that have a long legacy in this industry, and there's definitely knowledge bases on both sides that seem to be really beneficial in this case.
Oh, there's no question. And it's funny because even there's certain things that we do that we go on different paths, that we, and so part of it is, certainly each side, being willing to be helped, right? I mean, just being, to doing things a little bit better. And I'm sure we'll get to that point, but I'm really looking forward to that, to the teams. I mean, look, we've done a lot of acquisitions over the years, and there's never been anything more valuable in any acquisition than the team members, honestly. And there's several people on our teams right now that are folks that came from different acquisitions over the years. And I'm again looking forward to these guys playing a key role for a long time.
Okay. I know you said that, there's been, potential conversations about this going back a couple of years. What spurred the more immediate conversations, and when did you decide, okay, this was the right step for us to take now at this time?
Look, it had to do as much as anything as us getting out of the hole we were in 2022. I mean, we might have been able to do this earlier had we not had that, the 22 been as tough a year as it was. Mm-hmm. Once we got everything kind of right with our cash position, with our banks, I called Bobby back. Bobby had reached out to me, and I called him back and said, Bobby, we're in a good place now. Let's sit down and talk and see if this is the right thing for both of us. And then, like I said, the things moved along very, very quickly after that.
It seems like, the position that you guys are in sort of mirrors some of the conversations we've had with others in the industry where, you had the immediate pandemic years of 2020, 21, where there was, significant growth across the industry. 2022 is a much different case. And, we heard anything from, supply chain issues to just uncertainty over, the consumers that we gained these past couple of years. Are they truly going to stick around? Things improving a little bit in 2023. As we have conversations with folks, a lot of them are saying going into 2024 and beyond, with most of the issues seeming to be resolved, there's potential for, another wave of quick growth. How do you guys kind of slide into that scale right now in terms of what you're looking at coming into this year?
Look, I honestly, on our end, I'm a little skeptical about the growth. I mean, to me, when we've dealt, well, I've never, and in the 30 years that I've been, in the business, never dealt with, well, let me say this, even as the economy has slowed down in the past, and people talk about things being, parts of our industry being like recession proof, people still go out and they buy their plants and so on and so forth. We've never dealt with inflation like this. Mm-hmm. And that's been a huge concern. I mean, and even as we've grown the business, units are down. And so I'm not very optimistic about organic growth in the short term. Okay. And one of the things for us, I mean, if you ask me, well, how are you guys, if you're committed to growth, how are you going to grow the business? We are going to be looking continue to look for partners to merge with or to acquire. I mean, there's no question that we're in a good, look, we have a good backing, right? Even though we had a tough cash situation going back a couple of years, the company's primarily owned by Markel, which is a multi-billion-dollar insurance company. They're great partners. Very patient capital. Markel's a company that's never sold a business before. So we're not owned by a private equity group that wants to get in and then get out after a few years. We're here for the long term. They've been super supportive. And frankly, they've even been more patient, with investments than our family used to be when our family completely owned the business. So we have a great partner in Markel, and we're absolutely committed to growing our business. And we do think that the path here in the short to medium term is going to be, probably through acquisition.
Okay. Yeah, I know you said that might be a little early for this, but do you have a sense as for how this acquisition might affect the customer base, both for Costa and for Battlefield moving forward, and maybe on some of the various product offerings that you guys have?
Yes. So it's a little tricky. I mean, Battlefield does a lot of B2B. Well, let me say this too. I think for our customers today, that there's no negative impact, right? And we're not cutting any customers off, or I don't think we're complicating anything for customers or anything. We're complementing certain things. Battlefield does a lot of B2B business. That's one of the things too, we got to sit down with all those B2B customers and ensure them that we're going to continue to supply them, at least in the short to medium term. We haven't sat down and said, well, we don't want to supply these guys or those guys. We want to cooperate and collaborate, with the Battlefield suppliers and with Battlefield's customers. And again, make sure that at the end of the day, that we're making the right decisions for our customers, for our team, obviously. But right now, we literally have our first meeting, the first kind of serious meeting on this tomorrow morning, where we're going over all these things and then making sure. And look, we might have customers that don't want to support us anymore, frankly, right? I mean, people might say, hey, I'm a competitor of Costa, and I don't necessarily want to buy this if now Battlefield is part of Costa. I mean, you got to, at least we've been through this before, and you never really know where those chips fall until you have those discussions and you work things out. And so, if you ask me 6 months from now, are you surprised? I'm sure I'll be surprised one way or another about relationships that maybe flourished, with the partnership. And again, I'm talking more in the community, not in the retail community, but kind of in the grower community, about relationships that might have flourished that we never would have thought. And other relationships that said, hey, maybe these guys chose, not to do business with us anymore or whatever. So we'll see how all that shakes out.
Okay.
We're for this spring, it's everything kind of steady as we go here. Again, don't want to upset anybody on the supply side, on the customer side. And then make a lot of these decisions affecting 2025 and forward. And
kind of going beyond, this more recent news, I know Costa does a great job at kind of tracking consumer trends and, what categories consumers are interested in and where they're spending. What are your expectations going into this year in terms of where the plant consumer may lie?
Look, it is, it's a little cloudy for us, and I say cloudy. What I mean by that is, because of, like you mentioned, the trends from the last couple of years and people, getting into houseplants, and actually that's been obviously one of the categories that's grown quite a bit the last few years. But there's also been more suppliers that are providing houseplants, and I say so. It's a little cloudy even as we look at the data, the sales data that we get from many of our customers. It's a little cloudy because, in some cases, the information, when I say, the information was pure. And what I mean by pure is we might have been the only supplier for a particular category. And so we could, completely understand the growth part, the shrinking part, and so on and so forth. And now in some, we're trying to vet through and say, well, we supplied part of this, but somebody else supplied part of it and whatever. And we're just trying to understand that sales data, not what it means to Costa, but what it means for the whole, that entire retailer, if you will. And I don't know if that's confusing, but it's just that the data for us the last year or two has not been as clean and on the retail side. Now, when we still look and we say, hey, people are still Many people have stayed working remote. The people that are in the indoor plants, what we are seeing is that, where we have an impact on indoor plants, it's with new varieties. I mean, there is just so much, like we have so much of focus now on bringing new varieties to market. And what we really, really want to own is we want to own the plant fanatics.
Okay.
We a lot of folks out there that, they're kind of the normal, my mom and my aunt and so on and so on. So if they know kind of the house plant buyer, they buy the same plants they buy every year. And that's fine. But we really want to own that vocal minority that's very loud, that's fanatical, and that tells the whole world about new, cool stuff. And since we are limited, right, in all of our resources and who are the people that we can kind of go after, we go after those folks. And with those folks, we're, creating more, and really our marketing team would be better prepared to talk about this, but
Right.
we're creating more and more ties with those people. And, we're hoping and giving them a platform for them to be as loud as they can possibly be, I guess. I don't know if I've kind of gone all over the place with your question, but
No, it makes sense, yeah.
but we really want those guys. Again, we don't have the money, the resources to be kind of advertised to the whole community, but those folks that are fanatical, that really, really appreciate the new stuff. And we spent so much energy on bringing new things to market. And in that particular space, it takes us a long time generally to bring things to market. We have to build up, generally thousands of stock plants. A lot of that, we do that overseas. We're using labs more and more now as well. We're really, really, really have a focus on R&D and bringing new things to market and keeping things exciting. I mean, I can't tell you, to me, it's unbelievable now when I look back at that category. And up until just a few years ago, I'm telling you, the top 3 or 4 or 5 items were the top 3 or 4 or 5 items forever. I mean, when you look back for 20, 25 or 30 years, whether it's a Spathiphyllum, a Majesty Palm, a Dieffenbachia, and I mean, whatever it was, I mean, that's what it was. And the mix was over and at the same thing. And a lot of folks, not just us, obviously there's other people that have done a lot. We're all putting pressure on each other, I think, to be better. And the consumer wins at the end of the day, right? As we can continue to up the stakes and to make the category more exciting, more fun, and give the consumers opportunity to win.
Well, and kind of speaking of that, as you talk about engaging those plant fanatics, as you call them, what always impresses me is what Costa is doing, especially in social media and anything from videos to podcasts, where it's not just about here's what some of the newer plants are that are out there, but it's educating the consumer with now you have the plants, what can you do to take care of them the right way? That's always really stood out to me for what Costa does.
Yeah, look, we learned a long time ago that just creating something new and cool and different and putting it in our mix and just putting it out there, you never got any credit for it. Nobody ever knew anything about it. And now there's so many ways to complement the launching of new products, from what it looks like at the store, but like you said, all the complementary things that you can do online with podcasts and videos and so many different things to bring that consumer into our space. And we really feel like we got to work hard to win in that space as well. Because just the plant offering is only part of what we're bringing to the table. I hope our customers see that and appreciate that.
You used the word excitement a couple minutes ago, and one of the last things I want to ask you is, just at a broader level, what excites you the most about the future of this industry? What are you most looking forward to?
Oh, look, to me, I'm. This is kind of maybe a Costa-centric thing, but I would tell you the last couple of years for us, we didn't grow our business at all. And so again, this is not an industry thing I'm going to bring up. But it's a Costa thing.
Sure.
We're so excited about this merger, acquisition, or whatever you want to call it, with Battlefield, and the opportunity, and hopefully the signal it sends to the other folks that we are here, we want to grow, we do what we say we're going to do. We've done a lot of acquisitions in the past, and we really are looking forward to building a great company with a lot of great partners, and so I'm very, very excited about our growth, and getting past what was a difficult 18-month period for us, and look, for us, what we're committed to doing is we're committed to making and I say exciting, cool, fun plants available to everybody, and it's part of our mission to make plants available for everyone, not just across this country, but across the globe. And so, and how we how that manifests itself over the next few years, some of that's going to be determined by the younger folks on our leadership team. But I'm just generally excited about where we are today.
I'll ask you one more question. It's been some turbulent years. What's the biggest lesson that you think you've learned, these past couple of years about how Costa operates, and maybe how that's kind of led to any changes in how you guys do business?
Yeah. So look, I'll tell you that in 2022, when the reason we had such a difficult year in 2022 is because we just had much production. Okay. That we just, and it wasn't in our annual and perennial space. It was in our houseplant space. And we had way too much production, and we dumped a lot of product, and we put a lot of, and by the way, I want to say this too. We had a few customers that no matter how difficult it was for them, they stepped up and took, everything they had committed to.
Mm-hmm.
But we, the vast majority of our customers couldn't do that. And so we had a very difficult time. But the lessons we learned there in coordinating between, sales and ops, and we put a few things into place that allow us to just react so much quicker when we see changes in the marketplace that we need to make adjustments in our production so that we limit our losses. And it's kind of a technical, that's kind of boring, but I'll just tell you, our S&OP process is much, 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 much tighter right now than it was before that. And obviously you'd think, when you have a year like we did in 2022, you better learn something from that year. You better get a whole lot better. And because we had some overproduction issues even this past year, but we ended up having, dumping as a percentage, I think the smallest percentage we've dumped in the last 10 or 15 years, because the team reacts much, 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 much quicker. The growing team has learned a lot too, on rolling over product and so forth. And, again, I don't want our customers to worry about anything. We're good. We're set up good for 2024. But we just learned a lot to make us, a bit more efficient, and to manage our dumps, which, when we look at our, at our cost basis, I mean, our labor, our transportation, and the product we throw away, those are kind of the three giant buckets, that we look at. And if we're winning in those three buckets, we can win. If we have a tough time in either one of those, it's difficult. And one of the things, look, that I will tell you that I'm worried about going forward is just what's the labor situation going to be like?
Yeah.
There were very, very strict immigration laws passed here in Florida that took effect this past July. And I think all of us down here are concerned that we're going to have the labor we need even come this spring. So, we've invested millions of dollars right now in more H-2A housing and so forth. And so the guest worker program, which is already a big part of the industry, it's just continue to be a bigger and bigger part of what we do, and it's just going to continue to put pressure on labor rates. So anyway,
But I think despite those challenges, I think we're excited to see where Costa goes from here, as I'm sure you guys are too.
Oh, we've always dealt with challenges, right? It's hurricanes, it's labor, at least whatever it might be, pandemic. So it's a pretty resilient team, and a very positive team, honestly, and a team that's looking forward to growing. So yeah, we're very excited about the future.
Thanks for joining us. You can learn more at greenhousegrower.com. Please subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen.